Good evening, I'm Savannah Kelly. Welcome to APTN National News. The passing of Brian Mulroney on Thursday evening was, not surprisingly, the big topic of conversation in Ottawa on Friday. But what should be the former Prime Minister's legacy toward Indigenous people? APTN's Fraser Needham spoke to several people who weighed in on that topic.
Brian Mulroney's relationship to Indigenous people was a complex one. Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand says Mulroney was the first Prime Minister to officially recognize Louis Riel and the Red River Métis.
He made it very clear to Métis Nation. It was a position he took which was not really readily accepted by ministers even or by people, and the concept of respecting the Métis people of the West. So it was, I think, something that was would touch us forever.
Mulroney attempted and failed to fill the empty box that was Section 35 of the Constitution. A series of constitutional conferences in the 1980s failed to guarantee Indigenous rights within the new Constitution. However, Yukon University professor Ken Coates says the attempt had a lasting impact.
What Brian Mulroney did is he sort of put it into the mainstream and took it out of partisan politics. And the fact that you see the Conservatives finishing Liberal agreements and the Liberals finishing Conservative processes was just an indication that we'd moved into a new phase in the development of the region.
But Mulroney is also remembered as the Prime Minister who accepted Quebec's request to send the Canadian military into the Oka crisis in the summer of 1990. Mohawk activist Ellen Gabriel was there, and she says this will always be a black mark on his legacy.
He refused to recall Parliament to sit. They basically threw our human rights out the window, which actually in 1990 we didn't have human rights. We didn't have access to mechanisms to protect our human rights. We still have the Indian Act that has been there for a while, but you know, Mr. Mulroney was really, I guess, just holding the line of settler colonialism that we're used to.
She adds, by making the decision, Mulroney sadly chose to resort to violence against First Nations people who were only standing up for their inherent rights.
He didn't care about us. He if there had been a military confrontation in the sense of shooting, like the military shooting at our people, I think we still would have been criminalized in his eyes. So for me, it's not a great legacy that he has in regards to Indigenous peoples, at least here in Gunnesadag.
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
In the Northwest Territories, NGOs are leading the fight against homelessness and providing wraparound services to those with high-level needs. And now around 24 frontline staff will be able to hit the streets with more tools from recent Housing First training taking place in Yellowknife. Our reporter Charlotte Morit-Jacobs brings you that story.
Hey. So you can look at the
These are frontline workers. They work in the Northwest Territories, and their job is to help homeless clients get a home and keep it. And in order to deliver top-notch client service, they need to understand the core components of housing and intensive case management. This is where the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness steps in.
But in this role, that means if you want excellence and if you want professional interventions from professionally trained staff, that means that they need to be trained constantly. Because if the stats hold true, if I came back in 3 months, half the people I just trained are gone.
Longtime frontline worker and instructor Quinn Morkey says organizations hire staff with lived experience because they can provide insight into challenges people face. But they aren't paid well and still need skills.
That those people may, because they've had those experiences and those barriers, even if they're in the high state of recovery today, might mean that they don't know how to use a computer, that they've never written a case note before, they don't know how to write a report.
So like the long-term uncleanliness, we could start asking questions, right?
For NGOs in remote communities, training like this can't happen often enough.
The component is really interesting for me because, once we help these clients move out of the homeless shelter into a unit, like it brings up questions like, does the help stop there? I don't want it to. I would like to be engaged in that ongoing, individualized wellness plan with them. So.
Manager of Fort Simpson's warming shelter, Pam Horsey, says she'll be putting the ideas she's learned here into practice, like creating one-page client profiles. She says homeless clients are often stigmatized.
They're human beings just like the rest of us. They deserve love and care and compassion just like everybody else. And depending on what situation they're coming from or trauma endured, they might not even have those things. So why not create a space that's very respectful?
This week, the Legislative Assembly voted unanimously to join the federal government in making housing a fundamental human right. Meanwhile, Eleanor Young heads up the NWT Housing Corporation. She says it isn't overcrowding that leads to evictions in public housing.
And a lot of it has to do with addictions and illegal activities and individuals being forced to, or and I don't even know the right word to put it, but having people get into their homes that they then can't get rid of, sometimes out of fear and safety, and there's a lot of noise and a lot of complaints like that.
Various GNWT departments are developing a new homelessness strategy. Until that strategy comes to life, Morkey says the way things are done now is an illustration of system failures. But he hopes this training will help change all that.
We know what to do, but what to do is hard. We need political will and political follow-through to do the simple but hard things, to make sure that homelessness is addressed, to make sure that people are getting the help they need. It's not complicated. People need a place to live.
The next training session this month will focus on trauma-informed approaches. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
We want to hear what you think about how this type of training can help in the fight against homelessness. Here's how to continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. A Winnipeg foster home operator is under investigation over allegations it provided cannabis to youth in its care. The province's Families Minister says the province learned that Spirit Rising House was allegedly distributing cannabis to youths living in their care homes. A hold has been placed on new adoptions, and Child and Family Services has appointed a co-manager for the homes. Winnipeg police say the child abuse unit is investigating. We need to step aside for a short break. Coming up, a Mi'kmaq carver who uses traditional ways shares his story and the stories of the wooden masks he creates.
I was compelled to carve these 4 faces to honor their spirit.
Welcome back to APTN National News. He's one of the few Mi'kmaq wooden mask carvers still creating his art in a traditional way. Gordon Sparks says each mask he creates has a story to tell, and Angel Moore met him to hear those stories. Here's her report.
Gordon Sparks of the Pabonneau Mi'kmaq Nation is carving his latest wood mask.
I'm intentionally putting that heartbeat into it each time I hit the mallet onto the chisel, dum, 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 and putting that, and then it develops. So the more heartbeats I put into it, the more it's beating, the more it comes alive and presents itself to me. And
for Sparks, carving masks is more than art, and it begins when he harvests a tree in the woods.
And then it'll be a back and forth conversation once more, and it'll continue to let me know where to go and what to do at that time. And it's slowly presenting itself to me. It's like a long lost relative, or it's exactly what it is. It's the spirit of the tree presenting itself to me.
Sparks' studio is located in Bathurst, New Brunswick, where every carving begins with ceremony. Sparks wakes up the mask through singing and drumming to understand the purpose of the mask and its teachings of the forest. Sparks says the mask speaks to him.
But then there's a point where the eyes will start presenting itself, the mouth will start presenting itself, the nose will start showing itself, and the conversation that I'm having with it is it'll tell me, oh, I want a bigger nose, or my nose is smaller.
Sparks began carving back in 2014 while living in Halifax. He mentored with Ned Bear of Zidunzig, Wolastoqey Nation, a renowned wood carver who died in 2019. This mask will be on display at the Padaban First Light Indigenous Art Symposium in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, May 29th till June 2nd. This is Sparks' tattoo shop in Bathurst, where he displays 4 of his masks. They represent the Mi'kmaq creation story: Glooscap, grandmother, mother, and nephew. Some of the materials on the masks are horsehair and bear fur. The types of wood used are butternut, birch, applewood, and spruce. This mask is his very first carving.
I was compelled to carve these 4 faces to honor their spirit.
Noah Gastelum manages Culture Skate Shop and shares space with Sparks' tattoo studio. He loves having Sparks' masks on display.
When we have customers that come in and they ask questions, and to have him, relate his experiences to the masks and, all the, dedication and work that it takes to make these, and then pass that on to the customer. I mean, to me, that's a fantastic aspect of what we do here,
So far, Sparks has sold 3 masks. With about 3 months to carve each one, they sell for up to $10,000.
Each mask has its own length, its own duration of time. I'm not trying to mass produce them. Mask making is also a way to learn oneself and learn many, many things that the trees have to teach.
Sparks and 5 of his masks have traveled all the way to London, England, to attend a craft show called Collect Fair to attract international customers and connect with other artists. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Bathurst, New Brunswick.
The Yellowhead Tribal College in Edmonton is helping fight climate change caused by wildfires. They offer a 1-year course on environmental monitoring and drone technician certificate using the latest in technology to stop wildfires before they grow out of control. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
Last week, the Alberta government announced the earliest ever start to wildfire season in the province. And the Yellowhead Tribal College wants to help. The environmental monitoring and drone technician certificate offered is now in the middle of its first year. The course will help prepare students for a career in environmental sciences and use drones to detect hotspots early so firefighters can act fast to stop a fire in its tracks. The Indian Resource Council has partnered with the Government of Alberta and Yellowhead College to offer this program. The council represents 130 First Nations looking to be major role players in the oil and gas industry. They are looking to help mitigate the damage caused by climate change from oil and gas emissions. Winona Lafreniere is a director. She says Indigenous youth can find work and help protect the environment.
They're in a perfect position to sustain their communities through this training, because now we're adopting advanced technologies like the drone to do some of that work, phase 1 and 2 environmental assessments, surveying, aerial mapping, photography. So there's a lot of, the drone sector is $47 billion strong right now.
Jocelyn Verreau heads up the college's Science and Technology department. She says the school listens to elders to help prepare their classes. This course is free for Indigenous students. She says with climate change, early detection of fire hotspots is key.
If you could stop a fire, regenerate an area, create, because fire is a natural pattern of disaster. It's something that naturally happens. But with the changes in the climate, it's been accelerated.
Darcy Hunt is an instructor. He says the program isn't easy, but earning the certification has many benefits. The big one, graduates can help keep their traditional lands safe from fires.
We wanted to become involved in detecting these hotspots. And in order to do that, you need to get certifications such as grid testing certification, SFOCs, so that's special flight operators certificates, and a few more other requirements. So we're in line to join this fight against the wildfires.
The next course begins March 18th. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
The 17th annual Coastal Dance Festival kicks off this weekend in BC. We'll bring you a look at what to expect this year at the two-day event. Stick around for that after this final break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. From deep in the bush along the East Nelson River near Norway House, Manitoba, Christopher was enjoying the snowmobile trails and thankfully took a picture and sent it in. Thanks for sharing that one, Christopher. We want to see your pictures as well, so this weekend be sure to send them to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over to the east coast, we've got sunshine and 8 degrees in Halifax, rainy and -2 for St. John's. Nain, -12 there, Kuujjuaq, -16. Val-d'Or, 8 degrees, mix of sun and clouds, St. Gilles Vite, 6 degrees. Sarnia, rainy and 11 degrees there, North Bay, +5. Kapuskasing, mix of sun and cloud, 5 degrees there, Timmins, rainy and 7 degrees. Churchill, snowy and -21, Norway House, sunshine, -11. Dauphin, mix of sun and cloud, -11 there, Gimli, snowy and -6. Regina, rainy, -6 there, Saskatoon, flurries and -13. Stony Rapids, -20 there, Uranium City, sunshine and -22. Snowy and -16 for Peace River and Grand Prairie. -12 in flurries for Red Deer, -14 in Edmonton. Tofino, snowy, +8 there, Quesnel, -5. Dease Lake, snowy and -18, Prince Rupert, sunshine and +2. Mayo, sunshine and -22 there, Old Crow, -32. Norman Wells, -21, Yellowknife, sunshine and -26. Paulituck, snowy and -26, Inuvik, -23. Baker Lake, mix of sun and cloud, -28, Nauyat, -25. Igloolik, snowy and -23 there, Joe Haven, -32. The 17th annual Coastal Dance Festival kicks off this weekend in New Westminster, BC. And APTN's Tina House joins us with more on what to expect at the 2-day event.
Thank you. We're here at the Anvil Theatre in New Westminster, and joining me today is the Artistic Director of the Coastal Dance Festival, Margaret Grenier. Margaret, nice to see you again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for being here and for coming to check out our festival.
I can't believe it's been 17 years for this festival. Can you tell me how it all began?
Well, we were really fortunate that we were able to start the Coastal Dance Festival back in 2008, and at that time it was part of the Cultural Olympiad celebrations leading up to the 2010 Olympics.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I've seen you perform before, and the Dancers of Del Muhammad is your group, but now there's how many other dance groups affiliated with this festival?
This year we're hosting 12 dance groups, mostly throughout the coast. We have some coming from the Yukon, down in Washington State, Saskatchewan, and as well we have a group coming or returning from Aotearoa, New Zealand.
That's amazing. What can audiences expect for this year's festival? What's different about this year's festival?
Well, the festival is year to year. It really is a community of artists that have grown throughout the years. So we have a number of artists that will be returning. Some of our senior artists who are getting older have emerging artists that are taking their place. So it's really exciting to see the youth that have actually grown up with the Coastal Dance Festival. One of the highlights for me, however, is the Tarongo Collective. They're going to be sharing their songs and dances coming from Aotearoa, from New Zealand. And they were part of one of our first festivals leading up to the Olympics. And so it's really nice to be able to host them once again.
That sounds amazing. Now, can you tell me a little bit where you're from and what does it mean for you to showcase your culture like this?
Well, I was really fortunate to grow up with song and dance. I grew up along the Skeena River, and I'm going to be sharing with my family the songs and dances that are affiliated with the Gitxsan as well as our Cree heritage. This year we're sharing a very special excerpt. It's called Raven Mother. We're going to be premiering a full-length work in the fall, and it's to honor my mother, Margaret Harris, who passed during the pandemic in 2020, and really the legacy that she left, not only our family, but in revitalizing our songs and dances on the West Coast.
It sounds beautiful. My sincere condolences in your loss, but I know she'd be very, very proud of the work that you're doing and all the dancers that will be performing for this festival. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you in studio.
False claims of Indigenous identity have made headlines across the country in recent years. Coming up tonight on APTN Investigates, video journalist Rob Smith continues his investigation into allegations of so-called pretendianism within the Algonquins of Ontario. With more on the story, we are joined by Rob in our Vancouver bureau. So tell us, Rob, why return to Algonquin country?
Well, this is a part 2 in a series that is it's been about a year in the making. It's a story about 2,000 non-Algonquins who've been on the rolls in Ontario who could have benefited from an Algonquin land claim.
And maybe a little background is required here. Tell us, who are the Algonquins of Ontario?
Well, the Algonquins of Ontario is a organization set up strictly to deal with a land claim in Ontario for the Pikwakanagan, or for the Algonquin people. It was started by the Pikwakanagan First Nation, but there was an insistence that non-status people be involved. So this organization was set up to also include non-status people, and that's where the problem has come in, is because their criteria to become a beneficiary was seen by many as lax, and it allowed non-Algonquins through the door to become beneficiaries in a land claim.
And you met a family who believe they've been dealing with that very issue. What can you tell us about the Yatemans?
Yeah, the Yatemans will be featured on the documentary pretty prominently. They believe that the person that has been has been the leader of their community, one of these non-status communities that got involved with the land claim, is in fact non-Algonquin herself, and has usurped the position of the mother of that family, the matriarch of that family, and she and her daughters have been fighting to have the record set straight for a number of years now.
Interesting story here. We'll have to leave it there, Rob, but looking forward to seeing more on this tonight.
Thank you.
And you can catch APTN Investigates Return to Algonquin Country a few minutes from now following APTN National News. And that's all the time we have for your Friday news. For news anytime, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Savannah Kelly. Marcy Miigwech, thank you for joining us this evening. Take care and have a great night.